The sun was hot that afternoon, beating down on the dusty street like fire from heaven. People hurried past, shielding their faces with their hands or pieces of cloth. Peter was coming back from work, his old shirt soaked with sweat, his trousers dusty from the public toilet he had just finished cleaning. Life had been hard for him since his wife died 2 years ago. The pain of losing her had almost broken him, but he kept living, doing all kinds of minor jobs just to feed himself and pay rent for his small room. As he walked, something caught his eye. A small boy, about 10 years old, sat on the bare ground by the roadside. His clothes were dirty and torn, and his stomach looked empty. His eyes were dull but still searching every face that passed. In front of him was a rusty tin plate with just a few coins inside. The boy raised his head weakly and begged anyone who cared to listen, "Please, help me with food." Peter stopped. His heart melted. He walked closer and squatted beside the boy. "Little boy," he asked softly, "what are you doing here? Why are you begging on the street? Where are your parents? Why are you not in school?" The boy looked at him and fresh tears filled his eyes. "My name is Chinidu," he said, his voice shaking. "My parents are dead. Since I have nobody to take care of me, I decided to beg on the street so I can get food to eat. I sleep anywhere night meets me. I am always hungry. I just want to survive." Peter felt a lump in his throat. He knew what it felt like to be alone. He had no child of his own, no wife, no family who cared about him. He was a widower who had chosen not to remarry because his heart still ached for the woman he lost. He had very little himself, but something inside him refused to walk away. "Get up," Peter said gently. "Follow me. You will not sleep on the street again." Chinidu looked at him in surprise. "Sir, are you sure? I don't want to be a burden." "You will not be a burden," Peter said firmly. "I may not have much, but I will share what I have with you." He held Chinidu's hand and together they walked slowly to Peter's small house at the edge of the town. It was a tiny room with a leaking roof and a small wooden bed, but to Chinidu it felt like a palace. Peter brought out the little food he had, gari and groundnut, and shared it with him. The boy ate hungrily. That night, as Chinidu slept on a mat in the corner of the room, Peter sat quietly by the door and watched him. He knew life was about to get harder for him, because feeding another mouth would not be easy. But he could not turn away. He made up his mind that he would do anything: wash toilets, wash cars, carry loads, just to make sure this boy went to school and had a better life. From that day, Peter worked harder than ever. Every morning, he would wake up early, go to the public toilet to clean, then wash cars for people in town. Every coin he made, he used carefully, some for food, some to start saving for Chinidu's school fees. Though his hands were always wet and his back ached, there was a quiet joy in his heart. He was no longer living for himself alone. Life did not get any easier for Peter, but every day he woke up with new strength because of Chinidu. He saved every little coin he made, denying himself many things just to make sure Chinidu never lacked. When he finally had enough, he enrolled Chinidu in a small community school. On the first day of school, Peter stood proudly as Chinidu wore his new uniform. It was not fancy, but it was clean and neat. Peter had bought him a school bag, sandals, exercise books, pencils, and even a small lunchbox. It was all Peter could afford, but he gave it with love. Chinidu looked at himself in the tiny cracked mirror in Peter's room and smiled for the first time in a long while. "Uncle Peter," he said softly, "I have never had anything like this." "Thank you." Peter placed a hand on his head and smiled. "You deserve it, my son. Go to school, learn well, and make me proud. I may be poor, but I will do everything so you never feel like an orphan again." Tears filled Chinidu's eyes as he hugged Peter tightly. "Once I make it in life, I will never forget you," he promised. "I will repay you for all the good things you have done for me. If not for you, I don't know what would have become of me." Peter's heart swelled with joy. "I don't need repayment, my boy. Just grow up, be a good man, and help others when you can. That will be my greatest reward." From that day, Peter worked even harder. He cleaned more toilets, washed more cars, and took every little job he could find. Sometimes he came home late, his body tired and his hands sore, but when he saw Chinito reading by the dim lantern light, he smiled and forgot his pain. Years passed slowly but beautifully. Chinito grew into a bright young man, loved by his teachers and classmates. He worked hard and never let Peter down. Whenever he brought home a good result from school, he would place it in Peter's hands and say, "This is for you." Peter kept every single report card carefully in an old tin box. To him, those papers were more valuable than gold. They were proof that his sacrifices were not in vain. After many years, the little boy that Peter found on the street became a handsome young man. He completed secondary school and went on to the university. Peter struggled to pay the fees, sometimes skipping meals just to send money to Chinito in school, but he never complained. One bright afternoon, Peter sat outside his house, watching the dusty road, when he saw Chinito walking toward him. He was no longer the little boy with torn clothes, he was a graduate now, tall and confident, wearing a fine shirt and holding his certificate. Peter's heart almost burst with pride. He stood up slowly, tears already filling his eyes. Chinito walked up to him and knelt down. "Papa Peter," he said, using the name he now called him with love, "I am a graduate today. Because of you. You gave me life when I had nothing. You are the father I never had." Peter bent down, held his face, and kissed his forehead. "I am proud of you, my son," he said in a voice full of emotion. "The little boy I took from the street is now a man. I have no regret." That night, Peter slept with a smile on his face. For the first time in many years, his heart was full of peace. He had raised a son, not by blood but by love, and the boy had become everything he dreamed he would be. When Chinito graduated, he told Peter that he wanted to travel to the city to look for work. Peter's heart was heavy, but he knew the boy had to leave if he wanted a better future. Early one morning, Peter walked with him to the motor park. He prayed for him, hugged him tightly, and gave him the little money he had saved. "Go, my son," Peter said softly. "May God guide you. Don't forget where you came from." "I will never forget you, Papa Peter," Chinito promised, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Once I make it, you will never suffer again." Peter stood there watching the bus drive away until it disappeared from sight. His heart ached, but he was proud. In the city, Chinito found work after some weeks of struggling. He started with a small salary, but he was determined to make something out of his life. He called Peter often, telling him how the city was treating him, how busy it was, how loud the roads were. Each time Peter heard his voice, he felt peace. Years passed, and things began to change. Chinito worked hard and earned a promotion. Then another. Soon, he was one of the best workers in his company. His salary grew, and his life changed. He rented a better apartment, bought nice clothes, and even bought a small car. At first, he would call Peter and share every bit of good news, and Peter would rejoice with him, dancing around his little compound and thanking God. But slowly, the calls became fewer. Sometimes weeks would pass before Peter heard from him. At first, Peter told himself that Chinito must be busy. But as time went on, he noticed that even when he tried to call, Chinito would not pick up. Sometimes the line would ring and ring with no answer. Sometimes when Chinito answered, his voice sounded hurried. "Papa Peter, I'm in a meeting, I will call you back," he would say and quickly end the call. But the call back never came. Peter began to worry. He would sit outside in the evenings, staring at the road as if Chinito might suddenly appear. "Maybe he is too busy with work," he would whisper to himself. "He will call when he is free." But deep down, his heart felt the distance growing. Meanwhile, Chinito's life in the city was blooming. He was promoted to manager and now had a big salary. He built 2 beautiful houses in the city and bought himself a brand new car. He made many new friends, rich and educated people who introduced him to the good life. Weekends were for parties, drinks, and outings with girls who admired him. But in all this, he forgot Peter. The man who washed toilets and starved so that he could go to school was now alone in the village, struggling to survive. Peter, on the other hand, was aging fast. His back hurt from years of hard labor, but he still went out every morning to wash public toilets, sweep markets, and carry loads for people just to get food to eat. Sometimes he would sit on the old wooden chair outside his house and whisper, "Chinidu, my son, I hope you are fine." Tears would roll down his wrinkled cheeks as he thought about the promises Chinidu once made. Even the neighbors began to whisper. "Is this not the same boy Peter raised?" they said. "How can he be living well in the city while this old man still suffers here?" But Peter never said a word against Chinidu. He chose to believe that his son was just busy and that one day, he would come back home and remember him. Peter had heard many things about Chinidu's success. The villagers whispered it every market day. "Your son is now a big man in Lagos," they said. "He has built houses and bought cars." At first, Peter's heart swelled with pride. The little boy he raised was now a man everyone respected. But as days passed and Chinidu's calls never came, Peter's pride turned to worry. He wanted to see him with his own eyes, to sit with him and talk, to ask why he had become so distant. One morning, Peter took the little money he had saved and boarded a bus to Lagos. The journey was long and tiring, but hope gave him strength. He asked around until a young boy from his village, who once met Chinidu, directed him to the house. When Peter arrived, his mouth almost fell open. Before him stood a tall, beautiful building painted white, with flowers neatly arranged at the gate. He had only seen such houses in pictures and on television. His heart beat fast with excitement. "My son really made it," he whispered, smiling through his tears. He walked to the gate and knocked gently. The gatekeeper opened the small gate and looked him up and down. "Who are you?" the man asked. "My name is Peter," he said with a proud smile. "I am Chinidu's father." The gatekeeper frowned, then went inside to call Chinidu. Moments later, Chinidu walked out, wearing a fine shirt and expensive slippers. The moment he saw Peter, his face changed. "What are you doing here?" Chinidu asked, his voice cold. Peter blinked in confusion. "Chinidu, it's me, Peter, your father. I came to see you." "Shut up," Chinidu snapped. "I don't have parents. I don't have a dad. You are just a good Samaritan who helped me years ago. Nothing more. I want you to get out of here before I call the police." Peter's heart felt as though someone had struck him with a hammer. "Chinidu, are you okay? Why are you talking like this? I am the one who raised you. I washed public toilets to send you to school. I starved just so you could eat. And so?" Chinidu interrupted, his eyes flashing with anger. "What do you want me to do? Should I kill myself because you paid my school fees? I owe you nothing. I have no business with poor old fools like you. That boy you trained is no longer poor. Get lost before I close and open my eyes." Peter's lips trembled. "Chinidu, we need to talk. Please." Before he could finish, Chinidu grabbed a bucket of water from beside the gate and poured it all over Peter's frail body. The water ran down his worn-out shirt and soaked his trousers. "I said get out," Chinidu shouted. "I don't have money to waste on fools like you." Just then, a young woman stepped out of the house, dressed beautifully. "Babe, who is this man?" she asked, her voice full of irritation. "My love, he is just a street beggar looking for money," Chinidu replied, putting his arm around her. The girl, Kamsi, sneered. "Old man, you heard my boyfriend. This is not a charity home. Leave before we call the police." Peter's tears mixed with the water dripping from his body. His heart broke into pieces. Without another word, he turned and walked away, his steps slow and heavy. The neighbors watched in silence as the old man left the gate. Nobody said a word. Peter returned to the village empty-handed and broken-hearted. That night, he lay on his wooden bed, staring at the leaking roof, tears running freely down his face. The boy he had sacrificed everything for had rejected him. Back in the village, Peter could not erase the memory of that painful day in Lagos. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw Chinedu's angry face, heard his harsh words, and felt the cold water pour down his body like mockery. He would sit alone on his old wooden chair, shaking his head as tears rolled freely. He remembered clearly the day he first met Chinedu, a small boy, sitting on the street, begging for food. He remembered how he took him home, how he denied himself food to feed him, how he washed public toilets until his back ached, how he carried loads and scrubbed cars just so Chinedu could wear a school uniform. He remembered the promises, the words Chinedu said with tears in his eyes, "Papa Peter, once I make it in life, I will never forget you." Now, that same boy had poured water on him and called him a beggar. The pain was too much for his old heart. He wept uncontrollably many nights, his cries echoing in the silent room. "Such is life," he whispered bitterly. "You help people, and when they rise, they forget you. They trample on you like dust." Yet, in his pain, Peter made a decision. He would not let Chinedu's rejection destroy him. He would keep living, no matter how hard life was. He wiped his tears and continued doing the little jobs he could find. It was not easy, but he told himself, "If my son has forgotten me, I will not forget myself. I will survive." Meanwhile, in Lagos, Chinedu felt no remorse. Not once did he think about going back to the village to check on Peter. He was too busy living a high life with his girlfriend, Kamsi. He showered her with money, gifts, and attention. Whatever she asked for, he gave without question. Kamsi never lacked anything. She lived in luxury, new clothes, jewelry, expensive wigs, and trips to fancy places. But what Chinedu did not know was that her heart was not his. She loved another man named Emma, and she was only with Chinedu for his money. Each time Chinedu gave her money, she would secretly send it to Emma. Together, she and Emma were planning their future. They wanted to relocate to London and start a new life together. To them, Chinedu was nothing but a sponsor, a man to use until they had enough to escape. One morning, Chinedu and Kamsi sat at the dining table in his luxurious house. The table was filled with food, bread, eggs, fruits, juice, but Kamsi's mind was not on the food. She leaned toward him, her face soft with pretended affection. "Babe," she began sweetly, "I need 2 million naira. My phone is old now, and I need a new one." Chinedu looked at her with love. Without asking questions, without thinking twice, he brought out his phone and made the transfer immediately. "Done," he said with a smile. "Anything for you, my love." Kamsi threw her arms around him and hugged him tightly. "I love you, Chinedu," she said, smiling brightly. But behind her smile was deceit. Her love was only an act, a mask to hide the truth. As soon as Chinedu left for work that morning, Kamsi picked up her phone and called Emma. "Baby," she said with excitement, "he has sent the money. 2 million. I will send it to you now." "Good girl," Emma replied, laughing softly. "Soon we will be in London together, far away from him." Kamsi transferred the money immediately, her heart dancing, not for Chinedu, but for Emma. She had everything she wanted, Chinedu's wealth and Emma's love. But Peter, far away in the village, was still weeping for the son he once saved from the street. That evening, Peter was walking home slowly after a long day of washing public toilets. His shirt clung to his tired body, and his legs felt heavy. Life in the village had been hard, and some days he wondered how much longer he could keep going. Just as he approached the small junction leading to his house, he heard a familiar voice call his name. "Peter." He turned around and froze in surprise. Standing there was Jude, his old school friend. They had not seen each other since their youth, after Jude traveled to Abuja to start a business. Jude looked different now, well-dressed, fresh-looking, and clearly doing well for himself. "Jude!" Peter exclaimed, his tired face lighting up. They ran to each other and hugged tightly. "My brother, longest time." Jude said, smiling widely. How are you? How is life in this village? Peter's smile faded. Life has been so hard, Jude, he said quietly. I wash public toilets, carry loads, and do menial jobs just to eat. I am tired of this life. I need to leave this village. I want to work and change my story. Jude looked at him with compassion and nodded. Don't worry, my friend. I will not leave you here to suffer. Come with me to Abuja. I will help you find work and start again. Peter's eyes filled with tears of gratitude. He held Jude's hands. Thank you, my friend. God bless you. A few months later, Jude returned to the village to pick Peter. Together, they traveled to Abuja. For Peter, it felt like stepping into a new world. The city was busy, alive with opportunities. With Jude's help, he got a decent job cleaning offices in a big company. It was hard work, but the pay was better than anything he had ever earned in the village. Slowly, Peter began to rebuild his life. Meanwhile, far away in Lagos, Chinedu's world was beginning to collapse. His business was going down slowly, though he kept pretending everything was fine. Unknown to him, Kamsi, the woman he loved and trusted, was betraying him. Because he trusted her completely, Kamsi had full access to his bank account. One afternoon, while Chinedu was at work, she went to the bank and withdrew every last kobo. Not stopping there, she also secretly sold one of his houses and transferred the money into her personal account. Chinedu had no idea what was happening behind his back. He still believed Kamsi loved him and was planning to marry her soon. But one day, as he sat in his office going through some documents, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it casually, and froze. It was a debit alert, a very large one. What? Chinedu exclaimed, standing up sharply. Who touched my account? He called his secretary immediately. Ngozi, come here right now. The young woman rushed into his office. Yes, sir. What is happening? Chinedu asked, his voice rising. I just got a debit alert. Who authorized that transfer? Ngozi hesitated, then spoke softly. Sir, your girlfriend came this morning. She said you asked her to move the money to her account. What? Chinedu roared, his face turning red. Are you mad? I never said that. Get out. Ngozi ran out of the office as Chinedu grabbed his car keys. Fury boiled inside him as he drove home recklessly. His heart pounded. The woman he trusted, the one he wanted to marry, had emptied his account. He stormed into the house, calling out her name. Kamsi. Where are you? Chinedu's hands were shaking as he searched every corner of the house for Kamsi. He opened wardrobes, checked the kitchen, and even looked under the bed, but she was nowhere to be found. His breathing grew heavy. Kamsi, he shouted again, but the silence in the house mocked him. Boiling with anger, he marched to the gate and grabbed the gatekeeper by the collar. Where is Kamsi? Speak now before I lose my mind. The gatekeeper, frightened, stammered, Sir, she packed her bags this afternoon and left. She didn't say where she was going. Chinedu staggered back, his mouth slightly open. She packed her bags? Yes, sir, the man replied softly. Chinedu rushed back inside, almost tripping over his own feet. He ran straight to the bedroom, pulled open the wardrobe, and saw the truth with his own eyes. Kamsi's clothes and shoes were gone. The woman he loved had left him. As he turned to leave, something caught his eye. There was a white envelope lying neatly on the dining table. His heart pounded as he picked it up with trembling fingers and tore it open. The letter was short, but each word felt like a dagger to his chest. Dear Chinedu. I hope by now you have seen this letter. Chinedu, I do not love you. I have a boyfriend, Emma, and I want to spend my life with him. I never loved you. I was only after your money. Chinedu, I sold your houses, I sold one of your cars, and I withdrew everything from your bank account. I am with Emma now, and I am happy. Please accept your fate, we were never meant to be. Yours faithfully, Kamsi. The letter slipped from Chinidu's hands. His knees buckled, and he sank to the floor, holding his head with both hands. No, no, this cannot be happening, he cried. I am finished. I am doomed. How could I be so blind? He wept bitterly, hitting his chest, his tears falling on the cold tiled floor. The woman he had trusted with everything had betrayed him, taken all he had, and left him with nothing. While he was still crying, the door opened, and two strange men walked in. Good day, sir, one of them said calmly. Chinidu stood up quickly, wiping his tears. Who are you? What do you want in my house? The taller man opened a file and showed him a document. This house is mine now. Someone sold it to me legally. Here are the papers. Chinidu grabbed the papers with shaking hands and stared at them. It was true, his house had been sold, and the documents bore Kamsi's signature. No, he whispered, his body trembling. This cannot be happening. This is my house. I am sorry, the man said, but the transaction is complete. You have 2 days to pack your things and leave. Chinidu stood speechless as the men left. He felt like the ground had been removed from under his feet. His company had been sold out, his bank account emptied, his house gone. He had nowhere else to stay, no one to turn to. That night, he did not sleep. He sat in the living room, staring at the empty walls, his heart heavy with regret. Kamsi's number was switched off. He had no way to find her or Emma. For the first time, Chinidu felt the weight of loneliness, the same loneliness Peter once felt when he rejected him. His once beautiful life had shattered like broken glass, and all he could do was weep uncontrollably. What have I done to myself? He asked aloud, his voice echoing in the dark. I threw away the only man who loved me and called me his son, and for what? The house was silent, but his soul was loud with pain. Chinidu could no longer stay in Lagos. The city that once brought him pride now brought him shame. His houses were gone, his money gone, his business gone, and Kamsi, the woman he thought loved him, was living happily with another man. One night, as he lay on the floor of the nearly empty house, tears soaking his pillow, he made up his mind. I must go back to the village, he whispered to himself. I must beg Papa Peter for forgiveness. I have nothing left. Maybe he will take me back like his son. The next morning, he sold some of his expensive clothes and shoes to raise money for transport. He packed his remaining belongings into a small bag and boarded a bus back to the village. When he arrived, people gathered at the park to look at him. The same villagers who once admired him for being a city billionaire now whispered behind his back. Is that not Chinidu? One woman asked. Yes, another replied, shaking her head. The man who once came here with big cars. See how he is now. He has nothing. Some laughed, others mocked him openly. Pride goes before a fall, they said. Chinidu kept walking, his head down, his heart heavy. He finally reached Peter's compound. The place looked quiet, almost abandoned. He knocked on the wooden door, but there was no response. He knocked again and again, but silence answered him. A neighbor came out, looking surprised. Are you looking for Peter? He asked. Yes, Chinidu replied quickly. Please, where is he? He traveled to Abuja 2 years ago, the man said. He lives there now. He is doing well. Chinidu's heart sank. He stood there, staring at the empty compound. His chest tightened as memories came flooding back. The day Peter brought him home from the street, the years he worked to send him to school, the day Chinidu poured water on him and called him a beggar. He sat on the ground and wept like a child. What have I done to myself? He cried. I threw away the only man who loved me like a father. Now I have nothing. But he knew he could not stay there. Gathering courage, he asked the neighbor for Peter's address in Abuja. The man gave it to him, and the next morning, Chinita traveled again, this time to the capital city. When he arrived at the address, he stood nervously at the gate, his heart beating fast. He knocked gently. Moments later, Peter came out. He looked different, stronger, cleaner, and no longer the poor man Chinita once knew. Chinita could not hold back his tears. He dropped his bag, fell to his knees, and cried out, "Papa Peter, I know I have wronged you. Please forgive me. I am a fool for the way I treated you. I have nothing left. Please, have mercy on me." Peter looked at him for a long time. His face was calm but serious. "Chinita," he said slowly, "no one knows tomorrow. Never maltreat the people you are better than because you do not know what life will bring. I suffered to raise you, I washed toilets to send you to school, and when I came to your house, you poured water on me and drove me out like a dog. But listen to me today, I forgave you a long time ago." Chinita's tears fell even harder as he crawled closer to him. "Then please take me back, Papa Peter. Let me stay with you." Peter shook his head firmly. "No. You are now a man. Go and hustle for yourself. Work with your own hands. I have forgiven your foolishness, but I will not take you back." With that, Peter turned and went back inside, leaving Chinita kneeling at the gate. Chinita wept until his throat hurt. The proud city billionaire was now just a broken man with nothing. But he knew Peter was right, this was the price of pride, and now he would have to face life and rebuild from nothing.